welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new here. My name is Taylor Parnell, and today's video is going to be summer barn hacks as well as emergency horse care. So again, if you guys are new here, it will mean so much to us if you give this video a big thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel down below. It really does support us to reach more people, and of course, share this video on. Turn on those bell notifications so that you never miss a video with us. And you know, we're really excited for today's video because I think it's gonna help a lot of you out there. As you can see, Edward is a white horse, but he's in disguise right now. And Prince is a black horse. So they definitely have those two different sides as far as handling the heat in the summer. I know you want a treatsy. So let's go ahead and get into today's video. Want a treatsy? I love the treatsy bag. Nom, 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 nom. So I always give them treats when I come just to make sure that they have an appetite and just that they're, you know, feeling good. I always give them a check over to make sure that the night went well and there's nothing to be concerned about. So I want to get into those different tips for you guys for summer barn hacks, and then of course all the emergency care that you guys need to have your horses feeling safe and well and healthy during the summertime. Give me kissy. Good boy. Edward is a little more rough. Edward, kissy, kissy. Oh, thank you, wow. So the first thing is making sure that they have fresh, clean, cool water. What's really, I love these little automatic fillers, but in the summertime, they tend to get really, really hot. So what I do is I just clear everything out, make sure the bowl is clean, and then I actually dump out that water bucket and refill it with fresh water every morning so that not only the water is cool, but what's also super important is if this gets hot, they have this option as well. I think it's good to have two different water methods just because horses tend to change their minds, and we can lead the horse to the water, but we can't force them to drink it. Another thing you can add in the bucket is electrolytes or even like a, you know, apple flavoring or something just to encourage them on those super hot days. So let's go ahead and fill up their bucket. Yeah, you like your fresh water? Yeah, we're filling it up? Yeah. Another really important thing is having shade. Now what's super important is you might see shade now, but maybe throughout the day it might change. So make sure that any kind of protection you have from the sun, that the shade is there all hours of the day, and that when the sun moves that you're gonna see that it's completely covered and they have enough space so that everyone can fit underneath the shade. Another really important thing I wanna show you guys is the salt licks. Now, horses will drink 53% more water if they have a salt lick. You also can add salt into their feed, but our horses here are 24/7 forage. We actually don't use a feed. So I actually do two different methods. Inside their 24/7 forage, if we can find it because they tend to play with it a lot, I'll add some salt licks inside here so that they have just access to it while they're inside. And then of course I do have the hanging salt lick that you see back here that they tend to really use and play with. And then the other one that I have is just a flavored version that they tend to chew on, and that's just hanging here. We have a lot of different kind of things for them to rub on as well because they tend to get a little bit more itchy in the summer. This is apple flavor, so as you can see, they've kind of destroyed that pretty well. And this is gonna help increase their water intake. Another thing I really love to do is horse popsicles, and yes, you heard that right. I'm gonna pop on the screen exactly how I make them at home, and they're super fun. You can do them for all your pets even, especially on those hot days. That's something that you guys can really use to help cool them down, offer them a nice treat, and again, make sure that they're taking in that water. And I'm gonna get into a little bit later with those emergency tips and emergency horse care that you guys will really understand how to see if your horse is dehydrated and all of those things. Another thing that's super important, we talked about heat and all the ways to manage that for your horses. Now let's talk about flies, which we all hate the flies, especially as us equestrians. We really, really can't stand them. As you can see, the horses can't either. Again, I'm gonna talk about the fly protection that we use. That's something that's really helpful. So just to show you guys, I'm gonna also pop up on the screen how I put the fly traps and how I made them, and they're super easy. As you can see, we have a fly bucket right over here. This is something that you can keep on the floor to help attract the flies, and it will trap it as well. You can also hang them, as you can see in the far corner here, that I have hung this one. It just adds water, and as you can see in that video, it has like a little solution you put inside. Another one that you guys I'm sure are familiar with is the fly bags right back here. These ones are super great to be able to catch the flies flies, and you can put them in different angles. I think it's also important to make sure that some of them are in the sun, not all of them, because as you know, it will kind of take away the water in there. Also, another important thing that I'm gonna do right now is pick up the horse poop. Where the horses are eating and hanging out the most of the time, especially in the shade, you wanna make sure to move the horse poop, put it far from them so that it will attract the flies over there, because as we know, that's a very big attraction to the flies, and I think it's super important. If you can do it twice a day, it's very helpful, but make sure you pick up the horse poop so that your horses are more comfortable. So another important thing about the flies is fly spray. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of fly spray because it doesn't last that long. However, this is the fly spray that I use. It is a concentrated formula, so I think if you can get a concentrated formula, that's gonna be more worth your while because you're gonna be using a lot of fly spray in the summer. But you can use fly protection. So as you guys can see, they are wearing their fly masks. I have some older fly masks that I used before. Now, however, these ones, they didn't have enough room for their eyes to wear in the evening. So what I really like to do is I'll show you guys how the other ones work. This is by Harrison and Howard. I'll show you guys their company. They are amazing, really good quality fly masks. And what's super great is they last a while. So you always want to get like a brand that's going to last you a few seasons so that you don't have to rebuy them every season. And then the fly blanket I'm going to show you guys is the Busse Complete Plus Fly Sheet. Now, this did come in the bag here, and it does come with legs, which I think you guys are gonna love to see that. So I'll show you how I attach their fly masks and how I put on their fly blanket, fly sheet, and also the legs that come along with it. So this is the fly mask that we have upgraded to. It's the Harrison Howard extended fly mask. So as you can see, it's actually has a wire here that holds it off of their eyes, which again, it's super important that the fly mask is not rubbing in your horse's eyes because the actual eyelashes can interrupt the eyes and it can cause irritation. And then there's worse things that can happen if it continues to irritate the eye. So I love these. Not only does it have the ear protection so that, you know, nothing gets inside their ears, it has the lifted foreband, and then it does have the little nose attachment. You can detach this one. However, I keep it on because it does keep the flies out of their nose. As you can see, Edward is very irritated by the flies already. Edward, can I just put your fly mask on? Come here. Good boy. Good boy. This is their favorite part of the hay. This is the hood of the fly sheet, but you just slip their little ears inside. You want to make sure that there are no flies inside the fly mask. So I just kind of rub his face. Yeah, I know you love that part. And then you just simply Velcro it. It's super easy. Just make sure that it's snug enough that no flies can get inside, but it's also loose enough so that when they're eating, it's not stopping their jaw from moving open. So you just attach it here. These ones are cob size, so they're actually the same size as one another, but definitely measure your horse, and you can see off of the Amazon website, or they also have their own website. And again, just making sure that they have enough room to move around and that it's not irritating. Of course, what's super important is if you leave these on for a while, you just want to make sure to check that they're not rubbing in certain places and everything is good to go. So now we're going to move on to the Complete Plus Fly Sheet from Busse. I think this is amazing, specifically because, as you guys know, the horses stomp their feet a lot, especially if the flies bite. So as you can see, Prince is wearing his full setup. He has his legs on. I call it the space horse because really he's covered from head to toe from those flies, and it's really helping him out just to not feel so frustrated. Horses can get really frustrated and anxious, especially when they're uncomfortable, if they're overheating, or maybe the flies are bothering them, and this can lead to other things that you don't want to happen with your horse. And again, we'll get into that with the emergency horse care tips. So I'm going to show you guys on Edward. I detached a few places so that you can see how to put it on. When you get your fly sheet, the legs will be attached, so I recommend taking those completely off. What's super important is just making sure that everything's fitting well enough that it's not irritating your horse, but it's not too loose that it will get caught. So as you can see, I'm just putting like the belly strap on. You want to make sure that the belly strap has at least a fist of length between their belly and the strap. With Edward, as you can see, they are eating, so they're just a little bit concentrated on something else, but there's also these little holes, as you can see on the ears. You just slip them up and over onto their little fly mask. I think this is just great because it helps keep the neck up. so that if it, you know, they're running around or having some fun, that everything is protected there. As you can see, there are several straps for the neck. Now, those are just Velcro. You can Velcro them on and just make sure that, again, your horse has enough space inside. There is 2 clips, which I'll show you on print since it's a little bit easier. There are 2 clips. You just want to make sure that you can fit your fist inside the front of the horse, that it's loose enough, and that the clips are, you know, clasped and the Velcro is done as well. And what's super important is if you do feed your horses with hay nets, make sure that the hay net, because as you guys know, we use a bucket and we put the hay nets inside because they do have shoes on. So you want to make sure that the actual fly sheet can't get caught onto those hay nets. And if you do have hay nets hanging and they're not in a bucket, then you can just put vet wrap around there to make sure that they don't get caught up. So let's go ahead and put his legs on. But before we do so, I'll show you one more feature that I love about this blanket, which is right back here. There is a little attachment for their tail so that the actual tail is extended and it helps protect that area. And then of course, what's really great is they have the attachment here so that the blanket stays pretty centered. And you'll see as I start to put their little legs on how much they stop stomping because it's protecting them from the flies. So here's Edward's little legs, and each one of them are labeled. So this one is going to be the left hind. So we just go straight here. I unzip it from the bottom all the way up like this. This is actually going to be Edward's first time wearing his legs. I'm super excited for him so that he's more comfortable. Wrap it around the leg, put the zippers in, zip it down halfway. Then you'll see here there's 2 notches that you can Velcro onto this little tab. So again, you guys can use with or without the legs. I don't put the legs on right now at nighttime just because they're still getting used to it and I want to make sure they stay safe. Here's the other little attachment. You put it here and Velcro it on like this. Then you will tuck that inside and it's going on, and then you'll zip the rest of it down. And you'll see there's a little bit of a tighter part here with a band, and that's just great because it stays over their hooves. So as you can see, if the flies, for instance, he has a little boo-boo here, the flies tend to gather a lot, he stomps a lot, and it's not good for their joints if they're stomping. He's 17, so I think he deserves it. And now you can see he's gonna be much more comfortable with the actual sheet on, and we'll see if he does walk around with him because he probably will walk kind of funky. So I'm gonna do the rest of those for you guys. We'll speed it up so that you can see the process, and all 4 legs will go on today. So as I'm filling their hay nets, they do get 24/7 forage, which I think is so important for all horses, all time of year. But what's another thing I want to talk to you guys about is emergency horse care tips. Now, it's super important to make sure that you are looking out for the well-being of your horse. And I think another really important thing we have to talk about is, you know, making sure that you're riding your horses at the proper time. When there's certain temperatures you don't want to ride your horse or even work your horse because it's hard for them to regulate the body temperature when they get overheated. So it's super important to make sure that when your temperature, I'll talk Fahrenheit just so that you guys can know, and I'll maybe pop Celsius on the screen for you guys. But just for example, let's say that it's 100 degrees outside, but it's 50% humidity. If you add 100 degrees and 50% humidity, that equals 150. It's very crucial you never work or ride your horse from 150 or above. Me personally, since my horses are a little bit older, they're 16 and 17, I don't work my horses or ride them if it's 130 or above. So just for example, if it's a 90 degree heat day here in the summertime, and maybe it's like, you know, 40% humidity, I will leave the horses to be alone. And what's super important is that if you guys see your horses overheating, and I'll talk about a few things for dehydration. If you see your horses overheating, or maybe you ride them during the day, I mean, of course you should try to do it in like the cooler hours of the day, early in the morning or in the evening. But if you do see your horses overheating, you should definitely run cool water on them until you feel the temperature of their skin cool down. And it's super important to scrape off that water, because that's what's gonna help release the heat. If you keep the water on them, it's actually trapping the heat. So make sure that you use some kind of scraper to actually remove that excess water when they're cooled down. And of course, make sure they have access to cool water, fresh, clean, cool water. So I think that's super important when working your horses. You wanna make sure that you're being very cautious to the temperature, and not only the temperature, but the humidity as well. And then I'm gonna show you guys how to check your horse to see if they're dehydrated. So I'll finish filling these, and then I'll show you guys on the horses what to check for to make sure that they're feeling good and everything is running smoothly during the summertime. So I want you guys to drop in the comments, I mean, one, if you love horses, because I know we all do, and ponies, but two, if you guys ever have used a hay net. I'm obviously first-time horse owner with these two boys, and we're going on 2 years now. And I found that the hay nets not only help save a lot more hay, but what's also super great is that it helps keep them foraging throughout the day, because if I was to lay the hay inside this bucket, they'll just play with it and just pick out what they like. But I think this way it's just making sure that not only it's saving the hay, but it's also making sure that they have food 24/7. And with each horse, you can just make sure, like, since they're together, I just keep an eye to that they have enough hay for one another. And then as you see, this is kind of like a little invention I did. Since they have front hooves, you need to keep the hay nets hung high enough, because Prince even will paw at it and they can get caught in the hay net with their hooves, especially if they have shoes on. So what I did is I put it inside this bin, and this is really great because they can actually eat with their heads down instead of having it up, which most horses are supposed to eat that way. And I attach it. He's gonna go drink his water now. This is his go to drink my water hour, but he might go for that hay net too on the floor. So I did put little hooks at the bottom. As you can see, they are wrapped with the hay twine so that, you know, if there's any kind of emergency, it will snap off. But this is really great because when they play with the hay nets, they're not going to pull them out of there. They're attached at the bottom. And again, they're able to put their heads down and eat like a proper horse and not have it high. So I'm gonna grab the other hay net and we'll get into the last emergency tip of how to check your horses for dehydration. Yeah, you having your water, little Edward? You're such a good boy. You enjoy that fresh, clean water. You're gonna see his cute little tongue. Where do you stand? That's where he stands usually. Sorry, little Edward. So checking for signs of dehydration. This is super important. You know, with fly blankets, you definitely want to make sure that you remove them just so they have enough air through. But I always check to make sure they're not sweating, they're not panting. You know, when they're peeing, their pee is light colored, not dark. Also, that's when they're having that excessive amount of heat that it's like they can't cool down. So just making sure to check those different signs as far as panting, sweating, you know, pee color changes. Another thing that I love to do, which I think this will be a very helpful tip for you guys, is listening to their stomachs. That's to know that everything's working in there, because if your horse doesn't drink enough water, they'll actually eat the food and the stomach won't be able to process it because it doesn't have enough hydration in there. So what's super important is that they will actually get ulcers, and those ulcers will cause impactation colic, which Prince, my black horse, is very prone to colic. So this kind of tip of listening to their stomach, you want to just go, it's right after their last rib up here in the hindquarters. You just want to listen here for some gurgles to make sure that one, it's hydrated enough, and two, that it's moving enough. And then it will just take a few minutes to listen to it, and you'll just hear the or some weird kind of sound. And you want to listen to both sides just because you want to make sure each side is different from how it's working. And that's going to give you kind of that confirmation of, okay, everything's working in there. They're enough hydrated. They don't have ulcers or something. It's not going to say that they completely don't have those ulcers, but this is just a way that I check to make sure that everything's working in there. They're hydrated enough. Enough is going to flow through. If you can see them poop, that's even better. But also I check their poop to make sure that it's hydrated enough. You don't have to get all nitty gritty inside there. You can just look at it, maybe use your foot to mush it around and just make sure that there's enough water intake in there. And of course, like I said before, you can always use any of those other methods to make sure that your horse is drinking water, and also just kind of keep an eye on what they're doing and how much they're drinking so that you can be a little bit more safe in your mind that they're doing well with that. So another thing I wanted to show you guys was how to check for dehydration. The boys are eating, so I'm gonna try to see how I should pick them out. But what's super important is that when you guys are checking their mouths, you wanna make sure that their gums are pink and slippery, right? So that when you are checking your horse, if they aren't pink and they're more white colored and they are more like tacky and sticky, that's a big sign that they are dehydrated. And again, for me, I would just monitor them until I see one of them, both of them drinking, or vice versa. But what we'll do is we'll come over just to Edward, since he just drank some water, so you guys can see that. And then what you want to do is just hold your finger on for 1 to 2 seconds, make sure that the color goes away and it comes back within a few seconds. If not, and again, it's tacky, it's sticky, it's not the right color, that's just something to be very aware of. And if you see more extra moments, like I said, where their poop is more dry, their pee is darker, I would definitely be very close to calling the vet, just because, again, with the heat and everything, you want to make sure that your horse is hydrated, because dehydration can be very dangerous signs and could lead to very dangerous situations and emergency horse care. So let me show you guys that real quick. So the question is how dirty are your gums? So I don't know if you can see in there. You good boy. Yeah. So you just go like this and you just push on it, and you see how the color is coming back. I don't know if you could see it in the film, but it is coming back. It is very, you're such a good boy, Edward. It's very slippery. It's not tacky. It's pink. It's happy. Good boy, little Edward. So that's a good sign that I'm like, okay, they're hydrated. Everything's good. Let me just flip his little nose thing down. And yeah, I'm just super grateful to have horses. It's amazing to have, you know, these different summer barn hacks to keep your horses cool, and of course this emergency care tips so that you can be more aware of what your horses are dealing with throughout the day, especially if you're not here. So again, just to recap, you guys, make sure that you're managing your horses with the heat, keeping them cool, having shade, protection, cool water, fresh water, all of those different things that can help you to have your horse combat the heat during the summer. Make sure you're taking care of those flies. They can be very annoying. You don't have to be as extensive as I am with the Complete Plus fly sheet, but I do highly recommend it along with the Harrison Howard fly mask. They're really great quality and they hold up well, especially with these big animals. They tend to destroy a lot of things, as we know. And then of course with these emergency horse care tips, make sure you're just keeping aware and noticing your horses. It's always super important. You all know that if we don't pay close attention, there could be a huge vet bill and it could cost a horse its life. So make sure you follow these tips. Of course, comment down below any questions, concerns, maybe experiences that you have to help us in our horse community, because we all love our horses and we want them to have the best life possible. So thank you so much for tuning in, and welcome again if you're new here. Make sure you give this video a big thumbs up up. It really does support us and help us out. Of course, make sure you're subscribed and you turn on those bell notifications so you don't miss any of our videos with us. And of course, we can't wait to see you all on the very next video. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you later. Bye, guys. Give me kissy. Give me kissy. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, beep. Yeah, the flies are already annoying your face. I know. Come here.